Good evening. I'm Evelynn Hammonds, and I'm here to honor Shirley Ann Jackson. Shirley Ann Jackson arrived at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1964 as the valedictorian of Roosevelt High School in Washington, D.C. As a dedicated and quick studier in problem sets, or P-sets as you call them today, and as one of just a few African-American students. Despite her evident talents, it was that last descriptor that defined a significant part of her experience of MIT as isolating. She was only one of 2 African-American women in her class. Yet she stayed and thrived for 9 years. First to earn her SB in physics, and then to become the first African-American woman to receive a doctorate in any field at MIT. But the best part, everyone, is that her field is theoretical elementary particle physics. That dedication and resilience would eventually carry her through numerous senior leadership positions in academia, government, industry, and research, including her current role as president of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. She is, in fact, the first African-American woman to lead a top-ranked research university. Dr. Jackson attributes her interest in science, as well as her confidence that she could do it, to 2 events in her youth: the Supreme Court's Brown v. Board decision in 1954, and the successful Russian launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957. Because both of these events revealed opportunities for education and discovery previously unknowable. She has suggested that her earliest engagement with science, from observing bees that she captured in her backyard to her years at MIT, produced in her a love of science and math that she never lost. Her commitment to doing physics at the highest level led her to the pinnacle of American science. Dr. Jackson is also a renowned educator. She told NPR that universities are, quote, part of an overall pipeline that has to do 5 things. And I call it invite, excite, nurture, educate, and launch young people into careers in science and engineering. As president of Rensselaer since 1999, those 5 things have comprised her mandate. Through ambitious strategic efforts known as the Rensselaer Plan and the Rensselaer Plan 2024, she has raised the profile of RPI, as well as considerably more than $1 billion, to make the Institute a leader in areas of research that will drive its progress in the 21st century and beyond, through collaboration across disciplines, sectors, and regions. And no less important has been her commitment to and success in increasing the number of underrepresented minority and women faculty and students at RPI. Her goal of building RPI's global reach and global impact to change the world for the better includes those who have been traditionally left out. Now, Dr. Jackson has received awards too numerous to mention, but highlights include her election as an International Fellow of the British Royal Academy of Engineering, a Fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the Vannevar Bush Award from the National Science Board. She holds 53 honorary degrees and was awarded and she was awarded the National Medal of Science in 2016. She has also held Numerous presidential appointments, first under Bill Clinton, who appointed her chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and then under Barack Obama, who appointed her to several advisory councils and boards, including naming her co-chair of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board in 2014. As a graduate student at MIT, following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, she began to organize other Black students to push for the recruitment and retention of more minority students and faculty at MIT as a founding member of the Black Students Union. About this period, of Dr. Jackson's own education, the MIT Technology Review stated that, quote, she saw that she was in a position to open the aperture for more minorities and women at the Institute. Her effects bore fruit. In the fall of 1969, only a year later, 57 African-American freshmen entered MIT, a more than tenfold increase over any year. And one of those students was Sylvester James Gates, who's now a theoretical physicist at Brown University, and he said, quote, Dr. Jackson was my first physics teacher at MIT in 1969. She has been a North Star to many colleagues over the years as she modeled exceedingly well something she says, and he said, even smart people have to work very hard to accomplish something great. She is the epitome of this statement in so many diverse areas. I first met Shirley in 1974 at Spelman College when she came to Atlanta on a recruiting trip. I was studying physics and electrical engineering with the goal of earning a PhD in physics. Now, in many respects, this goal was more abstract than concrete. And why is that? Because until I met Shirley, I had never met, known, or even heard of an African-American woman physicist. And many of the male students at Morehouse College, where I took my physics courses, routinely told me that it was impossible to be an African-American woman and a physicist. Now, Shirley's talk to our chapter, the Society of Physics students, was mesmerizing. We watched in awe as she filled the blackboard with complicated equations from her thesis work in theoretical high-energy physics. We listened quietly, deeply moved by her clarity and confidence as she explained her work. But I must also say, and I don't think I've ever told her this, we were also quiet because none of us had ever taken a course in high energy physics or quantum field theory, and we barely understood what she said. But she inspired us nonetheless. And I applied only to the MIT for graduate study in physics because of her. As I have watched her steady climb to the top of American science and higher education, I am still awed by the ways in which she has made the impossible possible for all students in science and engineering, but specifically for African American women. So no one can no longer say, you can't be a Black woman and a physicist. For her own singular accomplishments in science, as well as for her tremendous success in bringing others along to opportunities newly open, the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research awards Shirley Ann Jackson the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal.
Well done. Evelynn, don't go. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I am a mild-mannered physicist for the Daily Planet. Now, you have to be of my era to know about the Daily Planet. Having said that, I stand here today because of two key things. One is the one that Dr. Hammonds already has told you, and thank you for that. And that is a window of opportunity opened for me because of the confluence of the Brown v. Board of Education decision that desegregated the public schools in Washington, D.C. when I was growing up, and the Soviet launch of the Sputnik satellite that riveted the nation's attention on science and math and educating people in those fields. But importantly, and the key factor for me, was my parents who believed very strongly, as Dr. Du Bois did, in excellence and the power of education. And my mother, a social worker, I had all of her children reading before kindergarten. My father, who was not a high school graduate, he was a postal worker, was very mechanically and mathematically gifted. In fact, he was at Normandy and in World War II in a segregated Army unit. And when the amphibious landing vehicles lost their rudders, he fashioned a repair on the spot with a special splice for which he received the Bronze Star, and his method was taught throughout the theater in France. And thank you. And they taught me that there was nothing that anyone else could do that I couldn't. No place that anyone else could go that I couldn't and shouldn't. In fact, my father always said, aim for the stars so that you can reach the treetops and at least you'll get off the ground. He told me that all the time. And so we each come through our window in time. And if a pathway of opportunity opens and one has the nerve and the resilience to step onto it and stay on it, amazing things can happen. Amazing things happened for me. And that is why I'm here today. And I want to thank the Hutchins Center, Dr. Backow, my good friend Skip Gates, Dr. Gates, Mr. Hutchins, and all of Harvard. One of those honorary degrees actually is from Harvard. And I especially want to thank my family, my husband who's here today, my baby sister who's here today, and my leadership team, many of them from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Thank you for this signal honor.